Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good bar hopping, whatever you're doing while you're listening to the Bingham Boys. This is the Bingham Boys. I'm Ron Yengich, and John Saltas I will find here in a minute. But, there you are. How are you, John?
Ron, how are you?
I'm good.
You look like you're a little wet.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Not through the splashing.
Well, there's wind out here, too. Yeah, I'm at the... And I don't like doing the remote stuff like you do. I mean, you go to Chicago. I'm at the Great Salt Lake for the initial unveiling of the plan and also the first scoop of ground that has been soon to be turned for the new Donald Trump world that is going to be...
Oh, SeaWorld Junior?
No,
SeaWorld Senior can't be
it's
Junior.
going to make the Great Salt Lake great again, or... put the great back into the Great Salt Lake. And there's a lot to talk about how they're doing this and the themes. There are a lot of famous people here. Hegseth is here. He's wearing his Father Coughlin outfit. He's gone back into time, and that's people that don't know about Father Coughlin. He was kind of a very conservative Catholic radio person in the 30s and 40s who Pope Pius the 12th had to give him a call and tell him, you're not going to be able to talk anymore.
STF.
Yeah, and this, what?
STFU.
Yeah, exactly. Very well. I'm not good on acronyms and stuff like that. So I'm still wondering, I still wonder what LOL means. But here's the deal, and this I think you're going to find fascinating. They just announced this before they are going to have, and this is sponsored by Elon Musk. Now That Elon Musk. He's going to get paid for it. It is the Prophet Isaiah chariot ride. It is going to be one of those things that
there's a rocket connection here, right?
Well, yeah. And this is what he does. He sends things into the sky that blow up. So people who are just kind of tired of life and they want the rapture now, they're going to strap them in a chariot. They're going to have wheels of fire with horses. They're going to shoot it up into the air, and they'll be able to go to the rapture early. But, and this is fantastic, it is called McTrump's. It's their dining location for everybody, and they've got some wonderful things. They've got, and it's all connected to the Great Salt Lake. They have... For example, I've lost my menu. I know that they have brine shrimp encrusted in coyote, and then with a little glaze of brine flies on them. Because Robert Kennedy Jr., this is a guy that knows all about health, and that's all protein. We were just talking about protein a minute ago, and with some friends. And so this is stuff they've got. They have
psilocybin.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, so you can drive to this place?
You're going to be able to. It's a one-way. It's going to be one-way. I-80 is going to be a one-way street because to get back, you've got to go to the right always. Of course, you can only get back to Salt Lake turning right. And so, but it's going to be one way to Wendover because in Wendover, they're going to have the Pete Hegseth memorial. He's not dead yet, and some people hope, but they're going to have a memorial there to him, and it's all, you have all you can eat places, it's all you can drink.
Now you're talking.
So there you go. So this is going to be wonderful, and there's some other things, but we'll let it go.
Why did they settle on Utah?
They got to make the Great Salt Lake great again.
You know what? I don't get it,
because
was there a Salt Lake before this? Why didn't you just call it Salt Lake?
Well, because they actually, and this is not,
really.
I'm not making this part up.
What's it compared to?
Well, because it was the largest saltwater lake that they were aware of, and much greater
In that case, just the name Salt Lake would have
Well,
worked
but they called Salt Lake at that time, if you want to learn about your own history, they called Salt Lake Great Salt Lake City. In Mark Twain's writings about Salt Lake, he refers to it as Great Salt Lake City because everything is greater here and everything is better. And so that's it. But I do want to tell you about one more thing. This was a problem. They finally got it fixed. So they were going to do immersion baptisms by Hegseth's evangelicals in the Great Salt Lake, but there's a problem. You float. But this is how smart these people are. This is what's beautiful.
They know the cinder block treatment.
No, because they want to recycle too. Hegseth has told the people out at Dugway to collect all the metal they possibly can, and what they're going to do when they baptize them, this is going to be a 2-for-1, that they either going to put in, the little things you put around kids, what are they called? Floaters? Mm-hmm. And Earl's Ice and I have to use those too because we can't, neither one of us can swim. It's well known. We never took any cases that involved water because of our fear of it during our time practicing together. And I think Eddie is the same way. But Pete thought of this. We'll fill them full of shrapnel, the floaters, and they'll go down, okay?
That's what I said.
If they come back up, they're baptized. But get this, if they don't, they will be encrusted with salt, okay? They'll be preserved until the rapture, and they won't even need to get a new body. They can just come up. It's just fantastic what they're doing.
I just had a ride with an Uber driver that told me a really painfully long religion story, and this
So
tops
is
it.
that what you're saying? This was painfully long?
Well, he had an accent. I don't know where he was
Well, I
from.
can give you an accent. What accent do you want?
I'm still trying to get my head around that. So we got the Great Salt Lake, and you're out there.
I'm here now.
Okay, cool.
We've got to start somewhere here because at least one of us has to have fun.
Well, you are having fun. I'll tell you where I'm at.
Where are you?
I'm going to show you a picture. Does that look familiar to you?
That looks to be...
Nothing that you've ever seen, apparently.
I've never been there, no. I don't know what that is, and it's water, and I'm not kidding. I'm deathly afraid of water.
What that is a picture of a beach in Sifnos, Greece, called Ironissos Beach.
Well, how would you ask me if I know where that is?
No,
I've never been to Greece.
Do you surf the internet or no?
No, I don't do that. I don't surf.
All right, so anyway, I'm there minding my own damn business, getting ready to jump in the water, and then familiar face goes running by, and it's Amy Donaldson of Salt Lake City.
No, I know
by
her.
this beach.
I know her.
And there goes Amy, and I go, hey! And then Amy come running over, and her and Ed, and how you doing, Amy? She said, fine, and we had a little fish tavern there, so we just sat on the beach for a while. But yeah, our guest today is Amy Donaldson.
I thought I recognized her when I walked in.
Yeah, and she came to Greece on the Greece trip with us 3 or 4 years ago. We went on that year to Sifnos and Crete. Somewhere else, I don't remember, but really nice trip. And, on that one, wasn't long before Amy was jogging around the island of Sifnos. Did we go to Pados on that trip too? I don't remember. But had a good time on Sifnos, and I do distinctly remember you right there. Amy, hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Amy, by the way, award-winning journalist, Salt Lake City sports journalist.
Yeah.
Won more accolades in City Weekly. Very highly regarded among other professional journalists. And I always thought that you and Brad Rock, actually, I always preferred your guys' stuff way over the Tribune, not the Deseret News. Amy's been with KSL for a long, long time. She can flee in and all that. She's nationally accoladed. She's jogged everywhere. Speaking of water, she's jogged around the Reflection Pond in Washington, D.C.
I actually have.
Well,
see? If you find
true.
a body of water, Amy will find it.
I ran in the Olympic Stadium in Berlin, too.
that's great.
What's the body of water connection there?
No, just I run wherever I can. Yeah.
Well,
Not a long distance, just a little bit.
I ran around the Reflection Pool in D.C. too a long, long time ago.
From security?
Yeah, no. But that was before that time. But I walked in and I saw Blonde and I go, oh my God, that he's found Pam Biondi and he's got her here because they were over there. So I feel a lot better. That's why I was a little bit, taken back when we first started talking. But I know Amy as somebody else too. I mean, she is married to my little brother, and that's what I call him. Ed Brass, who's just a fantastic criminal defense attorney and officed with Earl and I for a long, long time. Still practicing, although he claims he's getting ready to retire. But Ed's a terrific lawyer and a great guy. And so I know her even better because of that. But I know her as a sports writer. In fact, Amy had me on 2 occasions speak to the basketball, high school basketball, not all Americans.
It's all state awards.
All state awards at
the
the Deseret News gave out. And I was able to tell them that if any of them went to Utah or BYU, that they would not be the first one if they ever were lucky enough to beat Kentucky in an intercollegiate game, because I did it in baseball, and it's the only proud moment of my entire baseball career that I have. but that was fun, and she was nice. I've known Amy forever. I have nothing but sincere and deep respect for her as a writer and as a person and as a philanthropist. Her and Eddie do a lot of work with dogs and other critters, and if you go if you go to their house, they've always got strays and grays and anything else that is there. I mean, they collect everything and make sure it gets fed.
Yeah. Well, Amy.
Well, I connected Ron with his dog.
Yeah. Well, actually,
Yes.
Ed takes credit. My dog Jack.
Well, Ed heard me. Like, I was trying to figure out, this veterinarian's office saved a dog and, gave it life-saving surgery, but couldn't get anybody. It was right after COVID, right?
It was right after COVID, but
post-COVID, shelters and rescues have been in crisis ever since. And it was really hard to get to. Usually we help each other out, take dogs from shelters and back and forth. But we couldn't find a foster for Jax. Yeah. And Ed
sent me this picture.
He kept sending photos.
He sent me this picture of this cute little dog. My dog, Ginger, had just died. She died suddenly. And, she's the cutest little dog. And not really that little, but I told him, Eddie, I can't, man. I'm in pain. Can't do it this early. And then I went down to spring training to kind of get away, watch some baseball. I thought about my dog, and in the back of my mind, there's this little dog. Then he sends me the story. Well, here's her background. The people that owned her took her into the vet, and the vet they said, what's wrong with her? She had a growth, it turned out, on her vagina. And they asked him, well, what can you do about it? He says, I can operate on it, but I don't know if it's cancerous. I won't know. And they said, okay, just put her down, and turned and walked away. Go, God, you sons of bitches. People do that stuff. I can't do it, Ed. It's too early. And then my Catholic guilt kicked in like a SOB, because I wear a St. Francis. I touched it, St. Francis medal. Called him and I said, can I still get her?
And he said, I just want to meet her. Didn't you say, I'm just going to go?
No, I said, look, if they still have her, I think that they told me you have to go meet her. It was at Angel Paws, which is a wonderful place in Murray. Mm-hmm. So I walked out there, I'm standing there, and they bring her around. There are 6 other people that are just standing there waiting for the vet to call them. And, we were all standing there. There weren't any chairs. We're standing waiting for our turn. This dog comes directly to me and goes, pushes up against me and goes, you ready to go home?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think Ed told me, maybe he was just trying to temper my expectations, but he said he's just going to go meet Jax. I'd taken her out and gotten her out, just got her some exercise. And I said, well, if he meets her, he's going to love her.
Oh, no.
And then he sent me a picture, like literally an hour later, and he's like, he adopted her.
Yeah, she picked me.
I was so happy.
But anyway, it's great. Yeah. So they do that stuff. Yeah. And Eddie's been great also in doing a lot of pro bono work and his whole career. I'm proud of him, and he's a great lawyer and a great guy.
Well, Amy, how did you connect into journalism? How'd that work?
Oh, it started for me in high school.
You're from Idaho, right?
No, I'm from Alaska.
Okay.
So I was born in Utah.
Yeah.
And like I told you, I grew up with my cousins, lived in West Jordan, and we lived in Sandy.
There's a Bingham tie.
Yeah.
Who are the cousins?
My cousins are the Ryans, and they lived on a dead-end
I know
lane.
Bonnie Ryan. Was there Bonnie running? Was that her name? I think it was Bonnie.
Not in the
Not
immediate
your relation?
family. Yeah, but so they lived on a dead end lane right off 90th South, 1150 West. My aunt had this kind of house. They had horse property. They had horses for a while, and you could just walk in. People just walked in their house all the time, got food. So random people from the neighborhood, and then we could go in the houses of their that had kids. So we would swim at one lady's house, and I didn't know. I honestly, most of the time, couldn't tell you people's names. I was a really shy kid. So I just followed my cousins around, and we slept out, and we figured out what barbed wire was when we were running from one of my cousins, and my older
How
cousin
big of a
got
gash
clotheslined.
did you get?
I didn't get it. I watched him get taken out. Yeah, so
So anyway, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but there's a
Yeah.
sort of being. We'll take that, and then you
Yeah.
have to know the Fulmers.
yeah. So the Fulmers are the reason I thought I was thinking about it. I was doing some freelance. I actually went into crime and corrections. That was what I got hired to do, and education.
Yeah, I kind
Here's
of
the
jumped
pairing.
around, but from
Yeah.
Alaska somehow you ended up in.
So
West
from
Oregon.
Alaska, well, when I was in high school, I had a learning disability. I have dyslexia, and I hated school.
Hasn't affected your swimming or running. I'll tell
Not
you
my
that.
swimming or running, no. But I hated school. I thought I was stupid, didn't want to go. And so if it wasn't for sports, I probably wouldn't have graduated. And I also had a teacher when I was a sophomore who said, hey, if you want to come do newspaper, we give out free pizza. Because I was like, why would I want to do newspaper? That's like extra homework. Why would I want to do that? And he said, by the way, you don't have to be able to spell. We have editors, and you get free pizza on Saturdays. So I signed up.
That's how Bill came to work for City Weekly, the free
Listen,
pizza. and
that's
an
how you
editor.
know you're actually really at heart a journalist, if you'll do anything for free food.
Yeah, really.
So
So were you on the school paper?
No, I never worked for just the City Week's first newspaper.
I was on the school paper, and I also was on the yearbook staff, not only in high school, but in college, both of them. And my picture is in my college yearbook more than anybody.
Of course, you're choosing your own.
No, I didn't.
This
My-
is Ron.
I
You joined
know.
every club at the moment the photographer showed up.
No, but it's
Yeah, you
true.
did.
No,
you
I
just
didn't.
edited yourself.
I
in.
didn't do
That was
that.
pre-Photoshop.
They couldn't Photoshop at that time, and we also know my abilities with computers. So,
So-
when what actually got you to sports, though? How did you get to sports at the Deseret News from?
Yeah. So I'd done a little freelance for sports, and that's where Jay Fulmer, who was a bailiff.
Yeah, great guy.
And I knew who Gene Fulmer was, but I didn't know any of the other. I didn't know his family, and I really didn't know his history. I didn't know Tough Fulmer, any of that. So he's just a super nice guy. If you knew Jay, and I would do anything for him. And so I was like, it's Friday night. I don't have anything to do, and I went and covered some fights that they had over at the Gallivan Center before they had all that stuff there, right? And met his other two brothers and got to meet Gene Fulmer, which my dad was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, you know? And so, I mean, I grew up, my dad like bought boxing gloves for us. So we didn't sign up for things because we played the high school sports because they were free, you know, you didn't have to pay. If we'd had a gym like the Fulmer's gym, we would have all been in boxing because my dad was a huge fight fan. So, when I got married to Ed, so I was divorced at the time, and I got remarried in 1998, and decided I was going to quit my job and become a real writer and write a book. I was already working on it. This is what I was going to do. I just freelanced, and mostly freelance sports. My old boss moved to sports, and he said, you should come and do this.
Who was that?
His name was Chuck Gates.
Yeah.
And he passed away a couple years ago, but he's like, you could do this, and if you came here, we could do news/sports. So we wouldn't just do gamers, we would do something a little different. And I grew up reading Sports Illustrated, and so I wanted to do those kind of offbeat, you know, sort of what you want to know about somebody that you're never going to learn just by watching them play sports. And so
what's interesting about the Deseret News is this, because my brother, when he wrote sports for them, they always had a really good local sports department. Their local sports was always better. And although most people didn't like, the people that worked for him were not big fans of Hack Miller, who was the sports editor. Hack would allow people, if they had a good idea, to follow through with it and write it. And my brother, he did a little bit of everything too. And I've got a lot of his stuff that he wrote. My mother collected it all and put it in a book that I've got. But he did a lot of little vignettes about people that they published, including a really nice piece about the Shamrocks women's softball team, because he covered them. I went and would watch him. He was their official scorer a little bit. But they did all these stuff. They had really good people too. There, a guy named Bill Ewer and Brent Checketts and other people that worked there. And there was a genuine competition between them and the Tribune, who also had some good writers, Dan Pattison. And
Pattison was the D-News.
Yeah, but you're right. Dan was with them. That's right.
Yeah, and then he came to work for City.
Well, he went to work for City Lake. But I'm trying to think of who Ray Herbat was the guy with the Tribune that I remember. But anyway, and Mooney and Miller, they too didn't like one another. But it was a friendly competition, and they were really good. And when the papers went to shit, the thing that I missed the most was the lack of reportage on local sports, because no matter where I'd go, you pick up the paper and you read it. Nobody where I ever read anything in any city that I was stuck in ever wrote local sports as good as the Deseret News, and the Tribune did a great job too.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
100%. And they were still very competitive when I left sports in 2019, in May of 2019, almost like 4 months past my 20th anniversary. I did actually an interview on Radio West about kind of what the final straw was, but I had issues for a long time about what our priorities were, how we covered things, because one of the beauties of being a local reporter is that you get to know all the whole DNA of a team and a program, and you know its history, and I love just the energy that exists, and it existed before you, and it's going to exist after you, and it's just the thing that you tap into for a moment, and it's unifying, it's a connectivity, and it's like a fascia of something.
Well, and it also allows you, as a reporter that is covering them all the time, to really have an understanding what's going on. Mm-hmm. There may be other things that they're running by people, but you know. Mm-hmm. So here's my question. So did you find it difficult at times with knowledge that really was effectively off the record, writing stuff, knowing that, what I'm writing here isn't really getting to the meat on the bone of this?
I would say sports reporting is interesting, because what I found when I first came was I hated it. I was like, I don't want to just do scores. In fact, I tell this story, everybody laughs about it. My first daily assignment was covering a tennis tournament out at the Canyon Racket Club, and I didn't know anything about tennis. So I had to buy Tennis for Dummies, read it, learn the rules. And I was like, I'm going to find the best story. I was super excited about it. And I found a great story, woman coached by her dad. And they spent almost 40 minutes with me, which you don't get in sports. You get a few minutes if you're lucky. And I wrote this story, and I was pretty proud of it. And I'm not proud most of the time. And I turned it in, and my boss called me, and he's like, you're made for this. You got to do this. And so that's when I really committed. I'm in. I'm going to do sports, right?
Did they try early with you to just do women's sports? Because that was a women's tennis player that you mentioned, I think.
No, they did not. And I'll tell you about that in a second. It was my choice to go to women's sports.
I was just curious about the glass ceiling. Oh, let's do the stereotypical.
No.
Or she doesn't know anything about
I started
the guys.
covering, I did some college basketball. I did jazz sidebars, and I hated it.
Let me object here, too. You didn't answer my question.
I know, I was there.
Okay, so did you find it difficult to have knowledge about things that go on with the team, that and you know that they may be causing something that other people are totally wrong about, but you can't report on it because, in a sense, it's confidential stuff? No.
I feel like when coaches would let me in locker rooms or talk to me really freely, I really tried to. I'm not a coach. I'm not a professional athlete. I don't do most of the things I write about. I need to understand why you do what you do, how you do it, and I can't do that if you don't trust me. And if I'm writing about every single detail, if I'm just looking for the next headline, if I'm chasing a daily, you're never going to open up to me. So my feeling was, we both get better. We both get what we want. And they want to be understood. They want their team to connect to the community, the fans, right? And I want to do meaningful work. I want to inspire people. I want to educate them. I want them to care about things and connect in a way. And so chasing a daily thing, there are a lot of things I looked past. And I wouldn't look past criminal behavior. I wouldn't look past harassment or, a thing that I felt was morally problematic. But did I see guys do stuff that I was like, hey, you probably should take care of that? Absolutely. And there were times, because I covered high school sports, where I brought a problem to a principal. A parent had brought me or a kid had brought me. And I said, look, if I do a story on this, and it's a story, this kid is never going to play on this team again. They're going to have to leave this high school.
Right. Solve
the problem, and I'll walk away from it. And I did that more than once, because why am I in high school sports? Why am I a journalist? To solve problems.
Right.
To make life better for people. So we had many debates. I got told to go back to journalism school more than once. Here's an example from the crime beat. There was a hostage situation at a Taco Bell on State Street when I was covering, and I think Rachel was like baby. And after the thing broke up, we were all waiting for the hostages as they come out and talking to them. And some of them talked to me, and they said, like, could you not use our name? Like, we don't know who this guy was that held us hostage. He seemed pretty scary, That seemed like a reasonable request to me. They're not public figures. No. They didn't ask for this to happen to them. And I said yes. I go back to the newsroom, and they said, you can't make that promise. I said, well, I made it. So if you are going to renege on that, I'm going to tear up my notebook, and you can't use these quotes. So that was but I got, we had a big debate about that. But for me, doing something because you can is never a good reason to do it. What drives me as a journalist is, does this make the situation I'm coming into, is it better? Like, just holding, powerful people, I don't have a lot of sympathy for. But I still think I just listened the other day to a podcast about a bunch of famous people talking, and how afraid they are just to be themselves in any setting. We've lost nuance. We've lost the ability to just open up and connect in a real way. And the reason we've lost that is because everybody's publishing everything you do all the time.
Well, the other thing about it is that now everybody has been trained, sports people. Interviews just tend to be, and you can see that the reporter, and a lot of times it's just the sideline reporter after a game, or as a Brewers fan, Milwaukee's got a wonderful woman named, I can't think of her first name, Sophia Minhart. She's bilingual, so she can interview players and coaches in Spanish and English, and then translate.
Yeah.
But she is really on the ball. She knows baseball. She knows the team. She knows everything. And so when you hear her interview someone, you can see most of these guys know her, because she's mainly interviewing Brewers players after a game or before them. But they trust her. You can see it. On the other hand, there have been a couple of occasions where, she's asked questions from guys who just give you this white bread, straight line answer on everything. And it's interesting to see, because you can see her look at them and as if to say, talk to me, because I'm doing my job too, and I'm really doing it for you. And it's really a fascinating thing to see because they change. But I think it would be hard. I think it would be really hard. It's a throwaway line. I mean, my brother asked him why he stopped doing sports. He goes, I got tired of interviewing naked men. And that's been used by a lot of different people. But his main deal was, you get to a point where you've lost your zest and you need to do something else, simply because it is over and over again the same thing. But did you find that?
No. In fact, there was a year, the first year I did the Olympics, I went to Vancouver, 2010. And then I came back and I did the 1A girls basketball tournament. And the Rotary Club, I think it was in Richfield, they asked me if I would speak to them. And then I did it up in Salt Lake. And one of my colleagues was there, and he said, I'm curious, how do you go from covering the Olympics, the biggest sporting event in the world, to covering 1A girls basketball? And is that hard? Is it hard to stay motivated? Is it hard to find? And I said, no, because what interests me about sports? This intersection that I find so fascinating about, how do you pick yourself up when you get knocked down? How do you convince a bunch of people who have nothing in common to row the same direction?
Where are those stories even being written now, Amy?
Well, they are. I think they're harder to find, and they're harder to find because they're hard. It takes more time. I invested 4 years in a story once, and And the reason I did was because I knew it would. It was the most read story that I ever wrote for the Deseret News. I'm convinced. It was about a player who, in fact, he made the cover of Sports Illustrated for committing an armed robbery. And the story that was written about him and other football players was, football players get special treatment. We treat athletes like, royalty, and so they're taken care of. And I knew the kid's real story because I was talking to the high school coach, because I knew that high school coach and he trusted me. Yeah. And I said, we should do this story. And he said, we can't do it now because he needs the scholarship to Utah. And if Whittingham walks away from this kid, he's got nothing. Yeah. And so he's got to. So I waited. And what happened was this kid, who didn't have much in his life anyway, was helping some relatives move, and he lost track of his little nephew, and the nephew got suffocated under a mattress that fell on top of him and killed him. And he saw his mom and his sister running around crying in this very traumatic way, and it sent him into a spiral, as it would anyone. And he didn't have anybody to talk to about it, and he didn't know what to do, and he got involved with drugs and alcohol, and he did a stupid thing. And and Whittingham didn't walk away from him, and he wasn't a starter until his senior year. So I couldn't write the story till his senior year.
I know the story very well, and for reasons that you know. And the thing about so you got to show the redemption. I think that.
But I also got to show that you should not judge things in that moment. And that's one of the things I love about sports is my podcast Making of a Moment is you see something happening and we all think we know. I mean, journalists are the worst at this. They go in and they don't ask, if you've been in those press conferences, they don't ask questions. What did you do? How are you feeling? What was this? They say, here's what I saw.
Yeah.
Was that right? Like they want validation for their own knowledge.
What you critically said there, though, was that you invested in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the point that I want to say there, though, is media companies don't invest in that type of story anymore. And people like yourself that tell good stories, or anybody else that I always felt like the best writing personally that I ever read outside of RoyCo was on the sports pages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
always.
But you can still find it. Read after the Knicks won the championship. Take a look at my favorite thing to do after a championship is read local reporting. Yeah, because I'm telling you, they know those teams, and they know the communities, and they write magic. It is like butter.
No, it's going back and reading the great. We've even talked about it on this podcast. Go back and read, like you say, RoyCo, but from sports. Read any of the great old sports writers going back in time, and you go, you got to be kidding me. You literally, and it's like with Ring Lardner. Ring Lardner knew they were throwing the World Series, and he wrote stories about it.
Yeah.
And
no, there is you're right, there is an aspect of fearlessness. You can't, here's the thing that I think most journalists the mistake they make. They want to be in the circle of power. They want to stay relevant.
Well, that's what I was saying.
And I think as a journalist, you have to always remember you are in the locker room, you're not of the locker room.
No, and it's the same thing with politics. I think that's the
100%.
The line has really bleared more there than anywhere else.
Look, Stephen Smith and Joe Rogan and those guys are bigger than the sport itself. Mm-hmm. It's just not fun to watch anymore for me because it's just guys screaming at each other, and then it's the next game. Well, does any of them get philosophical at all in TV journalism?
Listen,
Costas is the closest right now.
I'll tell you two guys who do, and you probably wouldn't watch them because they're on for a half an hour, and that's Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon. They will tell you about
Wilbon's good.
Wilbon was a great writer, and so was Kornheiser. Both wrote for the Washington Post. I record their program ever since it came on, because John Schulian said, you got to read these two guys a long time ago. They care about that. They care about redemption. They care about the understanding. They'll talk about it. There have got to be people out there. This is something I've asked you, so I'll ask you as a non-journalist. So how do we find them? Because I don't know how to find these people.
Well, Amy just said if you read the local, then you find it. And if you know the insider baseball that you got handed to you, you find it. Well, but most people don't find it that way. We tune into the national broadcast and hear the screaming heads. It's entertaining, but they're bigger than the game.
Ron, you're right that it's harder to find. It used to be you could go to I loved going to a town. I go by the local paper, and all of a sudden I understand that community in a way I didn't.
Where's the local paper?
Yeah.
No, but and so
Or how superficial is the local paper?
Right.
your complaint is right and it's fair. I'm just
Oh no, it's not a complaint. It's an absolutism.
well, I know that.
Those guys suck.
Okay, so you add what adjective to you what I'm saying. I'm asking a genuine question. So
you have
tell us some names of people that we should read.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say after the Knicks game, one of the things I did was their local radio, Monica McNutt. She did interviews on social media, that post on social media, and I maybe Fox or whoever carried that. The problem is you can't even figure out how to watch a game. Like Ed will say, let's watch a. He doesn't.
No, you can't.
He doesn't even know which. He's like, what channel?
Well,
and I'm
none
like,
of
there's
us
not
do.
a channel, and you have to like that, and that's the thing you have to figure out. So sports talk radio, sports podcasts are good ways, but Monica McNutt did these interviews with these players, and they opened up to her for the same reason you talked about. What you need to look for is reporters who are doing their jobs in a way that when I always used to tell coaches, I'm going to show up when something bad happens. So call me when something good happens.
Sure.
So that every day we see each other and not in crisis. And that's the good reporting out there. I mean, I'll never forget, like you talk about local reporters in Brad Rock. He wrote a column after the Utes won the Sugar Bowl, that undefeated season they had, right? They beat Alabama. And I love when I read a story. I read a story after the Oklahoma City bombing like this, but he weaved in the Lord of the Rings token into this column, and basically it was like they were the hobbits. They were on this quest, right? And my favorite part of it was, and I just read, when you read something more than once, then you know it's good, right?
Yeah.
But like you bow to no one,
Well, I'm coming from the cynical point of view again, though, because I get that they are there. Mm-hmm. But this transition between when you began and Ron's brother began or I began and to current, I'm wondering how many people actually care to look for it. That's the cynical part.
Well, I think
so you understand it and you want
No,
it.
you're not wrong, because that's why everybody's struggling to invest in these things, because
people tell me
people
all
going, look, I just started a coaches book club podcast. So we talk about books with coaches, and everybody was like, do you see all the statistics on reading? 40% drop in the last 10 years.
People ask me all the
It's
time,
crazy.
like, "Oh, what do I trust? How do you know who's being honest and all that kind of stuff?" And the really answer is, well, you have to search and read. And guess what? People aren't willing to do.
They don't want to.
Search and read.
I think
so. You know, it
They won't.
makes it.
So the average attention span, it used to be like 2.5 minutes or something. It's like 7 seconds now. And that's because of our devices.
Yeah.
Right? We're on
Yeah.
our phones, we're on social media, and we can't like train our brain to pay attention to something for an extended period of time. So if you want to read that good writing, I try my best to support it. So I read it, I subscribe to the organizations that invest in it, and I try to share it. So I just try to share as much as I can work that I think is where a reporter has really put their heart and soul into something.
I think that and this is really the issue. I mean, you two guys are well-known journalists here. You're both award-winning. You've done wonderful things. And so I've asked the question 3 times. I've got one name, Monica McNutt. And so I'm not being critical of you.
Mina Kimes. So, I mean, there's a lot. But
Mina Kimes is good, and she's good on TV. I'm asking not about people that are on TV, although I brought up Kornheiser and Wilbon. Tell me a good sports writer like Red Smith or Haywood Broun or any of these guys from way back, or Royko, but in sports. Tell me somebody that you go, when their column comes out, I've got to read it. That's what I'm looking for. And I'm going to tell you right now, they're hard to find.
Tim Reynolds.
Okay.
Tim Reynolds of the AP.
Who's the guy?
Of where?
He works for the Associated Press. He's out of Miami. I covered the Olympic Games with him. And I think Christine Brennan. I don't always agree with Christine.
I know she's still writing. I didn't know.
Yeah.
But who does she write for now?
Yeah, the USA Today. I don't know how this is the other thing. I don't know how these networks work, right? So that's why I follow people on their social media accounts. Because
Tim Reynolds.
Tim Reynolds is Associated Press. I think Sarah Todd's an amazing writer here locally from the Deseret News. I was listening to her being interviewed on Sports Talk Radio. One of the things, I will say this, you have less quality commentary because newspapers think they don't need a columnist. They don't care. They don't understand the value of commentary and of
There's
putting
a
things,
lot of columnists
of reflection.
in Salt Lake.
I always say you learn in reflection, and what do we take away with columnists? We take away reflection. Where columnists are not there to gather facts. I mean, they have to know facts, but they're there to reflect on what is happening and give us a wider view of it, right? But like I would say this too. The media, the biggest problem I see is it's very male. They do these stats at the Olympics that are always mind-boggling because the Olympic press was way more diverse than the regular press. And it was like 90% male and like 85% white. That's a problem because whose stories are you telling? One of the things I just got an award, and I said at the award, attention is love. What you pay attention to shows me what you care about.
Of course.
And so if you are not telling certain stories, if you don't tell the stories of certain sports or certain people, then you don't care about those people. And they get that message. One of the reasons I stayed in sports and I started focusing on women was because a high school girl wrote me a card after the season and said, thank you for telling our stories. Because I really, when I first got to sports for 6 months, I was like, this is not important. This is stupid. Why did I give up covering crime and corrections? And I was doing a lot of work in juvenile corrections, and I felt like it really mattered. I was having an impact on policy. I thought it was important and purposeful. I wanted to wake up and feel like what I'm doing matters, right? And it was like games. Well, who cares about high school softball?
Have you ever thought about in the criminal justice system alone? And your husband is one of them. How many people that are involved in criminal justice, defense attorneys, prosecutors, judges, cops, probation officers, how many of them played sports in high school and college?
I actually did something with that once.
It's
crazy.
It's a crazy high percentage. And the reason is, and my theory has always been this, because the reason why sports are still important is because you're dealing with failure. You have to deal with failure. You have to deal with success. You have to deal with teamwork. You have to deal with subsuming yourself to a team. You have to learn how to subsume yourself to your own lack of talent or the great talent that you have and put it in the context of the team. You've got to deal with power above you, and you've got to deal with the people that are on the outside are telling you what to do when you know it's wrong. I mean, that is why so many really successful people in the criminal justice system played sports at a fairly high level, and it's because you go, well, look, this is no different. I mean, we're talking about how we go about dealing with loss and how we're going to take the loss and make success out of it, or the win and not become a dickhead. Okay, and so I think I get what you're saying when you were first doing it, but you captured exactly what I realized when I was a very young lawyer. I mean,
I used to ask a question a lot of interviewers do, because you can't ask specifics, like you can't ask age, sex, gender. We're in the military and interview. You could ask, what's your favorite sport? What
Sure.
you participate in? You could tell a lot. If somebody said football, like, okay, offense or defense.
Yeah.
And team,
That's
but it's
great.
a team sport.
That's a great point.
Basketball, team, there's more passing. Baseball, you wait your turn, you get to be a hero. And this is for sales anyway, editorial, all bets are off because they might play marbles, those people.
Right.
But Bill, marble player here, Pong, what are those things? But anyway, if they said two sports, I was like, they were pretty defended for me. If they said tennis in sales, I didn't want to hire them. If they said golf, I would.
Okay, I get it.
So golf, you get a chance to start over, and you get it.
Right.
Redemption. You get to.
Right.
Oh, they told me no 17 times, but on the 18th hole, I got an eagle.
Right.
And you never quit. In tennis, it's like, hit it over the net. Why? Because we told you to. They got a funny scoring system that nobody else understands. Then they got these lines. And in the sales world, I always felt like somebody should break the borders and go out of the lines and try something different and not be so structured. Anyway. That's an interesting analogy to compare it to what you were doing, Amy. But I still remain curious how all this evolved, and you went where you went with the girls' sports, and you started to say that. But that's what I want to know.
Well,
and with the way you could have shaped somebody in the criminal world. That kid that grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. But I'm going to tell you, who hasn't told that story before? Mm-hmm. Seriously.
Yeah.
But who has told? Not very many people told the story about the kid in Richfield, the rodeo kid, or the girl that never had a chance down in Beaver or whatever, or any local school here. They always wanted to be somebody and couldn't because they were glass ceiling, perhaps, or they didn't have the scoring. And I don't think that women migrate to women things because they're women or feminists, but it's certainly true that those categorically did not have a place in high school sports for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And then when they did, they were probably covered wrong. And
they weren't covered.
They weren't
or
covered.
their championships were covered. I mean, they didn't, let's be real. The reason that mattered to me was because I realized that the reason I got into journalism is to make people's lives better, to pay attention to pay attention, right? To see the detail of life. Where are those stories? And what I loved about it right away was they were so grateful for my coverage that they were 100% open. I go to boys practice and there were all these rules. I go to college campus and it's even worse. But I go to a girls game or a girls practice. What do you need? Come to my house. Be it.
Do you think it's the same way?
It depends on where you're at, but no, it's not. I'll give you an example. The Royals. We do this podcast, and I asked for a men's player to come down to the studio, and because it's on camera, so we have to have them come in the studio. But they have to pay the players to go do appearances, and they consider media appearances. So now how do you build interest if you can't tell those stories? The thing that sells a product, and the sports are a product, people are products, is the stories. It's how do I connect to this?
Exactly.
And so that's the dilemma women's sports has, and it's very complicated. There's many nuances to it. But one thing that I would say about women covering women's sports, a lot of women shunned doing women's sports.
It's stereotypical to even assume that it shouldn't be that way. I don't believe.
It's not the stereotypes that bother them. What gets you on the front page?
Right.
Not a women's game. Do you know how many times I was on the front page of sports? Hardly ever. And you know why? I didn't care. But I didn't care. But if you care, if you want to climb the ladder, I had little kids. I wanted to be at home. I wanted to spend time with my dogs. My job, I wanted it to be purposeful, but I wanted it to. One of the reasons I quit my job was I said to Ed, we both can't be cynical. Your job, Ron, makes you cynical.
Yeah, to a degree.
To a degree, and you need.
But you know what? There's an outward cynicism that develops, but you cannot stay in doing what your husband has done, going on 50 years, and I did for over 50 years, and remain cynical. I mean.
Not and be good at it.
Well, but you can't do it, and you can't do it and be bad at it, and not and be cynical. And the reason
I've seen some bad ones.
Well, there's some bad lawyers, but it isn't their cynicism that makes it bad. It's they were bad lawyers to begin with. But what I'm saying is, you can't go up to the plate every day and be cynical and thinking metaphorically, I'm gonna hit a triple today. I'm gonna, I'm facing this. I may not get a home run, but I'll tell you what, I may win this by scoring 6 runs on bunts and making them make errors or whatever. So
yeah,
but there is an overt idea where you go, my God.
But if you want to climb the ranks, you have to aspire to cover the big sports. That's football, that's basketball, and that's baseball. Right? I could tell you 100 stories.
You're 100% right.
About
wrestling is as exciting as it gets.
So here's the dilemma I had. I wanted to cover the women. I loved that they wanted me there. I wanted to go where there wasn't attention. Why send 5 people to a men's football, a college football game when there's nobody covering the women's basketball team, right? So I said, how about? So I paid attention to what got on the front page. I paid attention to what was happening, and I said, I need to write columns. I need to do commentary. I need to figure out how to do that, which is very hard when you're trying to be to have opinions while you're also a news reporter is really hard. That I would not recommend. But I needed to do it to get women on the front page. The other thing was think outside the box. So I have to come up with features or issue-oriented pieces like why did the NWSL get rid of the draft? You have to figure out a different way that would attract a wider audience because. The problem in sports is because so much of the media infrastructure is male, They don't think anybody wants to know any. And I always say, how do you know you don't like broccoli if you've never tried it?
So were they trying to get? The assumption was men didn't want to read about women's sports.
Their assumption was only men care about sports.
Yeah.
And they don't want to read about women unless it's in relation
to
to
women's
men.
sports on, women wouldn't be reading the sports pages. It would just be men who say
And here's the problem.
There was some truth to that.
There was for a long time, right? But again, when you make a thing for men, sports is I liken it to gym equipment. Gym equipment is made for a 5'10", 180-pound man. It's not made for me. And so when I go to the gym, I have to figure it out. I have to adapt. That's sports. The universe of sports, we were excluded from it. They didn't want us there for, all these leagues. Women played full court basketball around the turn of the century, 1900, and they played at the World's Fair. They had a whole tournament of women's basketball. They just said, "Oh, these women, they'll be infertile. Their uterus will fall out on the floor. So they changed it to half court and they made them wear dresses. Who wants to play basketball in a dress?
Used two defenders that had to stay back and
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you know the rules. So that's what they did to us. And then and literally, you guys are lucky in Utah that you had the Mormon church, because at least they had sports for women. Like every woman I've interviewed in Utah that had anything to do with breaking barriers played, even whether they were Mormon or not, they played church ball.
Well,
because the church let them play.
Taking that forward, do all of those biases still exist in the media?
All of them, no. But enough of the patriarchy remains it's the reason I left. I loved covering sports. I got tired of begging my bosses to care about issues in teams that were feminine, that were women. And I got tired of arguing with SIDs and PR people about why coverage mattered, why they should let me do it a certain way. When there's no trust and there's no... I like the idea that a rising tide lifts all boats. You need something from me. You want publicity. I want great stories. We can figure this out.
Yeah.
But we have to be honest and we have to be open. And then I need a organization behind me that says, hey, we believe what you're doing is important.
Did you run into coaches or players or administrations that thought, oh, she's just...
Administrators more so.
Really?
But coaches rarely. I'll say this. If I showed up and I knew what I was doing and I was competent, they were happy to have me there.
Favorite coach?
Roger Dupay, Skyline High School.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. I've been lucky enough to cover a lot of great coaches. I loved covering Lynn, that was at the U.
Lynn Archibald?
No, Lynn. She was just there. She just went to the LA.
the women's.
Why am I having a
coach.
senior moment now?
Yeah.
But no, I
watch it.
Cindy Bennett, who's still at Slick, softball coach. But Von Alvey was the first coach I interviewed, first high school coach I interviewed. And
did you ever talk to George Sluga?
I did, and actually, I talked to George in his second incarnation. So I knew I was a reader.
Bingham connection.
I read George Sluga's situation. But here's the thing. Some of those guys who are older and they found in me a way to actually communicate, because I wasn't interested in just a quote. I really want to understand you. And Roger...
Ron and I believe that George is a really good guy.
He's a great guy.
No, but the thing about... But George also really wanted to help kids. And
he did.
One of the things that I think is really interesting is as things evolve, some people evolve with it, and some people push the evolution, and some people get left out. And my question has always been that kids don't have enough people to care about them. Why would you not try to help everybody evolve who is willing? If you're willing to show up, I'm willing to invest in you.
Yeah.
But that became an issue. And I think you saw it more and more. And I also think that there's still debates about, are you tough enough? The way my dad raised me, I would not have dared raise my children that way. But there were pros and cons to it.
Is women's sports migrating a little bit more to the male ethos of sports?
That's coming.
Like the women coaches are getting more hard ass, and the players are getting more hard ass, and there's
what
more
makes you think we weren't hard? What makes you think we weren't hard ass and they weren't hard ass before?
I'm not thinking that at all. I'm asking.
I'm saying we've always been hard ass.
Listen, don't doubt that.
Some of the women's coaches,
you're talking to somebody who absolutely believes that.
There was
I'm looking at the observer.
Liz Wiscombe, who coached volleyball at Morgan High School, was the hardest ass of all the hardest asses. She was she changed volley. She's from a small town. If you've been to Morgan, wonderful little mountain community, but
Right.
I think they had 300 or 400 kids at the school, and they could beat 5A schools.
And they did it historically.
They sent kids to college. Because she didn't believe in this idea that you can't be excellent wherever you are. Whatever component you. And what I loved about her was just that, like you talk about creativity. Women's coaches, by and large, have to be more creative. There are definitely differences. There's an amazing interview with Emma Hayes that Megan Rapinoe did. Megan Rapinoe has. I highly recommend that podcast because she talks to Emma about what's holding women's sports back. That's
what I'm trying to figure out.
The biggest issue women's sports has is men who think that. There's a few, but the biggest issue you have is just doors are closed. Just that there's not opportunity, and they'll let a mediocre guy learn his way into a radio job. They won't let a mediocre woman do that. You have to come in and be excellent.
What I'm wondering is I'm not for 1 second. I need some tough women too.
Yeah.
So that's not it, and I admire every bit of it to the core. The thing though is I'm just looking across the board, and I'm just seeing a nuance change, the style of dress, the style of demeanor, and I'm wondering if it's just because that's a natural evolution, or it's because that's what succeeded for men, and that's what we want to replicate or something.
I think it's both. I think so. That's what Emma Hayes talks about. Why is the women's game just a replica of the men's?
That's what I mean.
In the WNBA, it wasn't.
It was not, but it is now. It is.
No.
It is. It is more.
There's a push pull.
No,
there's a push pull right now.
No. Here's the thing. Okay, so. The WNBA, Kay and I went to the games when they were here.
Yeah, I covered it. Yeah,
loved it.
Great.
Okay,
Super fun.
And I liked watching the WNBA. I liked watching women's college basketball a lot.
Yeah.
I loved the U, and I particularly our basketball team. We didn't. Our women's team didn't get a lot of money. But what was the name of our coach?
Elaine Elliott.
Elaine Elliott. Elaine was so good. I remember being in the Denver airport and walking to get after checking in, and there were Elaine Elliott and Jeff Judkins, and I know Jeff sitting there talking. When he's the coach of BYU, I go, God, I got to get on this, and so I just sat down and introduced myself, and I think I'd met Elaine before, and. I asked him all these questions, and it was great. I loved watching it. And you want to know why I loved watching it? Because it was really basketball. It wasn't above the rim, always. Could get there, some people could. But the movement without the ball, the stuff that guys like Red Auerbach taught, how you ran a fast break, it was gorgeous basketball. I watched the women's tournament this year. I didn't find as much of that again. A lot of hard fouls, a lot of stupid fouls, a lot of complaining, a lot of stuff that in the old days, during watching women's sports, and I'm not talking back in the ancient time, the stuff that I enjoyed, that it wasn't this phony male egomaniac bullshit that is happening in the women's game now. You can say to me, well, you just don't get it. But I thought that there was a greater purity to the game because they weren't trying to play the game like men. Or do you agree with that, or do you think I'm just totally out to lunch?
No, I think it's a valid perception, and there's truth in it, right? Like, that's why I said it's both. All of these things are happening at once. So there were women journalists that I worked with who did not want to cover women's sports because they didn't want to get pigeonholed. And they hated being, like, if a women's organization or a women's high school team would say, hey, will you come speak to our team, or would you talk about women's sports? They said, no way, I'm not doing it. One woman I knew wouldn't cover figure skating because it was they thought that was a women's thing, and I was like, no, it's not, it's both, right? Like the most famous skater at the time was a man. But so everybody gets in your head about that, right? There were real barriers. I had to ask my competition at the Tribune, Brett Prettyman, to go into a locker room at the Grizzlies games and bring me players because the team did not allow me to go in the locker room. And they played jokes on me, the guys did. I wrote a column about David Ortiz telling the guys to quit dropping their towels and just let me do my job, right? And so, but I actually went to Larry Miller. I saw him at a WNBA game, and I just struck up a conversation. I wrote a column about our conversation about the WNBA. But I said, Larry, why do I have to interview, to your brother's point, these guys when they're half dressed? They don't want to talk to me in that environment, and I'm not getting really good stuff. I don't just want quotes. I want to understand things. Come up with a different solution. And you know what he did? He said, you're right. When Joe Busis was there, wouldn't even entertain this. So I just quit covering baseball, which I loved. And when Larry took over, and they changed it. They created a press conference room. They shut the locker room to any media. So they didn't have, my male competitors would go in and drink beer and eat dinner with them. But I had to sit outside and wait for somebody to come and yell, fire in the hole. And then I could walk through the thing to the manager. It was the most degrading experience, and a lot of women were like, I don't want to sign up for that.
My brother,
why would I do that?
When I forget who it was, the first woman that went into a male locker room, I mean, it was a real first, and it was reported back in New York, and it wasn't Christine Brennan, but it was, it doesn't matter. Anyway, my brother said, what do you think of that? Because I was still playing college baseball. I go, I would be really uncomfortable. I don't want that. I don't think they should do it. And he goes, well, what if effing prude you are, aren't you? Then put your towel around. That was his answer.
Yeah. But most men, so you have one or the other. You have, one of the reasons I always stayed at the Deseret News. I had the opportunity to go other places more than once. One of the reasons I stayed there is because I love my guys. The crew that I worked with, they respected me. And in fact, I would have left sports a lot earlier were it not for Dirk Facer and Brad Rock. And Brad Rock saw me, and I was struggling because it's hard to be the only one. You're always, you guys probably had this, growing up in Utah, and there's always a room you're in where you're just like, I'm never going to fit in here. I'm going to be here, and I'm going to do my best to be kind and connect. But at the end of the day, I'm not one of them.
We've talked about that a lot.
Yeah. So I understand it. But Brad said to me, your problem is you're trying to be us, and you are not us.
Right.
And so the reason we love you and we need you is we need you to be more you. Yeah. He said, I asked Dirk what's going on. I say, hey, what's happening with this player? He can give me his stats. He can tell me his playoff history. He can tell me, what he's good at, what his skills are. He said, I come and I say to you, what's going on with this player? And you say, oh, his grandmother has cancer, and that's his dad over there in the stands. And here's a situation he had last year that he was dealing with, And he said, so it's not that one is better than the other. And that's what I would say about men's and women's sports. Women's sports is best when it doesn't try to be what it's not, right? And that's a problem we have is I wanted to be accepted, so I was willing to turn myself into something that wasn't me because I thought I would be accepted, and many women have done it.
Yeah.
And as I tell my sister, you're never going to be in the fraternity. The most you can hope to do is be in the same spaces, because there are different things that I get to do, or advantages I have that my male counterparts. Like when the WNBA was here, one of the very first features I did was that women had to go on injured reserve to have a family. So a woman got pregnant, it was like they considered it intentionally injuring her. I will point out that this is the 30th anniversary of the WNBA, and they just, in their last contract, now you cannot trade a player for being pregnant. So you can.
That's stunning to me.
That has barely happened. Just barely happened.
Why did the WNBA team leave Utah?
Well, they were. It was financial.
We're going to have you back again, but because we're at the end.
Okay.
And so we're going to do the question. But you've been terrific.
Thank you.
And it's been wonderful. So here's the question: are you with us, Bill?
I don't have a microphone, but go ahead.
I understand, but you can yell in my ear. So. We do songs, okay? So I'm going to give you today three songs. Three songs. They all there's you don't have to write them down.
No, I have to. I'll forget.
Okay, so there are three songs. They're from the 60s to 1962, 63. One is in 1965, and the other one is 1975. And all you have to do, there's no right answer. Tell me, what is the best of these three songs in your mind? Which one is the best, okay? The relationship with them is this. One song is a song about lost love, okay? One song is about the desire for love, and one song is about the culmination of love, okay? All right? And I'm looking at you because you better give the right answer to this one,
He said
buddy.
there's no right or wrong answer, but John better not screw it
No,
up.
but you cannot screw this up. So the first song, and it's the last one that was done. It was done by Pure Prairie League, and the name of it is Amy. Yeah. Okay. You know the song? You know the song?
Very well.
You know it?
Used to have amateur night in these little rinky-dink bars in town, and me and a guy named Mike Dantas, when I used to play guitar, would get up and sing it. He was singing it. I would.
So Amy was written by the really the founder of Pure Prairie League. It was on their first album, but didn't do well. They put it out as a single when they released their second album, and it's one of their best songs all the time. Great song, and it's about a guy who doesn't know how he let her go. Okay, Amy, number one. Number two, and I think you do know this song. Number two is 1965. So this came out when I was a sophomore in high school, and written by a guy named O'Brien, and he's from Boston, and he wrote this song. One of the false narratives about this song is that the drummer, whose also name was O'Brien, was Cubby O'Brien from the Mouseketeers. He was one of the first Mouseketeers. The fact is that Cubby O'Brien didn't play in the Standells, who did this song. Cubby O'Brien played for the Carpenters as their drummer, among other things, because when Karen Carpenter had to stand up and start singing, he took over that set. But the second song is Dirty Water by the Standells. Bill, do you know that song?
Nope.
Oh my God. Bill really is from Cuba, and he came here as, I guess, I don't know what it is, because he knows everything. You know that song.
I know that song.
Okay, and that song, what is it about? It's the main deal of the song is that you're living in a city that is really kind of dirty and nasty, and you're young, and you want to have fun, and the only place you can have fun when you're young, lovers, muggers, and thieves, is down by the Charles River. But what's the real problem? The problem is Boston University locks the doors to the women's dorm at 10 o'clock. Okay, they can't get out, you can't get. And then the third song, which you're not going to know this one either, is 1962. It's written, and it's written by a guy in Texas, which I just found this out. I would have never known that. He sings it with a woman who's just simply happens to be a girl that is the niece of the boarding house this guy that writes a song in. His name is Hildebrand. It's probably the only song he ever did. And the name of the song is Hey Paula. Okay. Do you know that song?
Yeah. Hey, Paula.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Paul and Paula?
Paul and Paula was what they did the song as. So, what's your favorite song?
Of those three?
Yeah.
Amy.
My God, you're in trouble tonight.
No, I love that song. I love Pure Prairie League. I love that era.
I used to collect, my name was so common. I used to joke that my parents named me Amy because they knew I was going to have a learning disability, and I couldn't. My sister's name is Michaelin, so it's really hard to spell.
Yeah.
But I used to collect anything that had my name.
Amy.
So anytime I found a song.
Mike could pick up the
Hey
guitar.
Paula is a wonderful song. Number one song in 1963, starting in February, held the top spot for a long time. Well, I'm sorry, Paula. I thought we would give him an easy one.
I know Dirty Water. I like that song too.
Dirty Water's a great song.
But I'm partial to that.
And the reason
songs.
one of the reasons, the thing with Amy is you understand that Amy in that song is spelled A-I-E, A-I-M-I-E. Dirty Water, its real success was because the line is lovers, muggers, and thieves. But everybody said that really it wasn't saying muggers, it was saying something else. And that's why kids loved it at the beginning. Well, I was giving you an easy one, and
Well, I
you
took
blew
it
it.
easy. You didn't know the other part of it.
I mean, I appreciate you choosing.
Tell me
song
the
for
other song, or the other part of it.
Did I actually played guitar at one time? That was the
But you
other
know, I
part.
played guitar too.
Did you?
Yeah, but I played country music.
So did I. I wrote a lot of
Well,
songs.
I mean, Amy's a
so
country
me and Ron,
song.
me,
I
me
did-
and,
I
me
did-
and Mike Donis and a
Yeah.
kid named really beautiful singer Randy Johnson, a Bingham boy. He would play with us, and me and Mike would play around different clubs and pretend like I would play where nobody knew I was, playing. And
Well, I knew that you played the guitar, but I didn't know you played publicly.
yeah, I got a picture of me on stage somewhere. Really.
Well, we've told people on this
So-
stage that, or in this podcast, you dress up really good at your son's wedding. I ain't kidding you. I'll tell you what.
I had COVID.
You looked really good. You'd shaved and everything. You got to see the picture. He and Paula, she's so beautiful,
I saw it.
and he's a handsome, brown-eyed man.
So you got an Italian word or what? We got to.
I do. The Italian word of the day is caglione, and that is a word that was used in a headline of a Italian paper. I forget what paper it was.
El
And
Posto or something.
Il
like
Posto.
That.
It's a conservative paper, and after Donald Trump had said that the Prime Minister of Italy had begged him for a photo, I forget her name right now. I'm sorry. Scusi.
Maloney, isn't it Maloney?
That she fired back on him, and so the word is caglione is really.
It means what?
It means testicle. That's what it
You
means.
put the word testicle on an Italian front page of an Italian newspaper.
Yeah, of course you can.
I'm just curious.
Italians, I mean, they were the ones that used to have bare-breasted women on at 8 o'clock on TV.
That's true.
Anyway, so it's a nice. So, but it also means, the idiom is crazy or stupid crazy, kind of in that sense, or in the sense of a nut, an N-U-T, which kind of works too, but that's what it is.
So the Greeks, their favorite word when they're disparaging us, malaka.
Which means?
Well, means a lot of things. It literally means soft.
Malacca.
Oh, yes, but it has all kinds of connotations when you use the word soft about men, for instance.
Yeah.
So
Flaccid.
yeah, that's another way. And but the word literally testicle is archidia.
Really?
Yeah. Did you see the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
We've talked it. I've seen it. I've seen all three of them, and
Okay,
you
in the
haven't.
first one, there's a scene. The guy that's going to marry, what's her name? The main woman, the girl. He's introducing to the family, and the kids are playing pranks
That's
on him.
right.
And
That's right.
he goes, hey, teach me some Greek words so I can impress your mother. And the kid said, okay, tell her echo tria archidia. And so he walks up and says to the mother, hi. And she says, hey, how are you doing? She says, echo tria archidia, which means I have 3 testicles. What a nice way to introduce to somebody.
Well, I think we'll end on that. I think that's a good place to end because,
We are 3 testicles.
yeah.
We are
well,
3.
Well, we're
Well, two. I'm the
We're
I'm
we're
one that
three
doesn't fit.
Amy. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks
Will you
for
come
having me.
back?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. We got more to say. We got more to talk about. More questions to ask.
And I'll send you reading recommendations. How's that?
Please.
Yeah. I mean, people. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's it. Peace and love, everybody.
Thank you.
Be safe and
Thanks,
take
Amy.
care of
Good
yourself.
to see you.